because when you do game development or you do any like very specific like art form, you kind of don't have any friends that do it. Like you don't know anyone. Like you're really into this thing, and like most likely your friends from college or like are not going to care at all.
Welcome everyone to the Phat Games podcast. With us this episode is a friend of mine, someone from the New York game development scene, and one of the Gumbos as well. We've got Andrew Garrahan with us. Andrew, say hi.
Hi, how's it going, Blair? It's
pretty good.
Great to be on the Phat Games podcast.
Yeah, thanks for doing this. You are probably going to be the person who's had the most success from the community that we've had on. So it's exciting.
Okay, wow.
I don't know if that makes you nervous or not. All right, so you and I have known each other for 5-ish or so years. We first met through playcrafting, and we went to a number of events. We're at a lot of the same events a lot of times over the years. So tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get into this racket?
Right, yeah. I feel like I've known you for longer than 5 years. Yeah, we met at a playcrafting, which used to be the New York Gaming Meetup here in New York City. And it was, well, originally it was like a meetup group, and it was just video game developers all over New York City that would come, and they could show off their games to other game developers. And it was kind of a hub to just meet other people making games. This was, I think, a time before like Unity and Unreal. Unreal was around, but Unity had not really hit it big. So there were more like Flash game companies and a few other minor engines, but a lot of the people that were showing probably like 7-8 years ago were just using other tools. So it was a much different scene. So now, like if you're getting into the game development scene, just like being able to learn with Unity and watch YouTube videos, and it's a totally different scene. So it really has changed a lot. And this is like before Indie Game the movie, I would say, because
really that's like before 2012 then, right? Because that's pretty old now.
Yeah, I feel like because Indie Game the movie, was it 2012 or 2014?
I think the sequel was 2014 because no, that might have been later. That might have been like because that was after I moved back to New York.
Yeah, so it was like kind of around that time. So I'd say it's a much different gaming scene now than it was 8 years ago, in the sense that now it's just, there's so many more game developers, and that's great. And it's never been easier to self-publish your game. So even like 6 years ago, there was like, it was hard to get your game on Steam. So you had to like do like
the green light.
Even before green light, like you just couldn't publish on Steam. Now you just pay $100 or something, and you can at least put your game up there. So, and itch.io was not a thing. So the world has become a lot more accessible to developers. So self-publishing is a lot easier across all platforms.
So how did you get into it?
So for me, I am, when I went to college, I studied graphic design. And I think when I was in school, like Flash was really big. Like I don't know if you guys remember, like Macromedia Flash, Adobe
Yep.
Flash. It was just officially discontinued a few months ago. But Flash was this wonderful software where you could make little vector animations and kind of build these little interactive graphic design pieces. People would make animations on this website called Newgrounds, but you could also make games because there was a programming language called ActionScript in there. And for me, I was studying graphic design and Photoshop, and I thought Photoshop was just the most amazing thing. You could draw pictures and do like graphic design. But then I learned a little bit of web design, like HTML. And then I discovered this Flash thing. And I think I had someone who wanted me to build an MP3 player on their website. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I heard you can do it in Flash. So I went to like some Flash website, and you could download people's projects, and you could like open them up and see how they were built. So you could, even if you didn't know the code, you could still kind of unpack this MP3 player and see how the buttons were made, kind of see a little bit of code on a play button or a pause button.
It's like a lot of self-taught.
Yeah, you could kind of almost like taking apart a little like a kit or something, and kind of reverse engineering, almost like hacking it or cracking the software, but you're looking at someone else's example and just clicking around, like learning it. And For me, it was a lot of fun because Flash allowed for basically animation, and then that animation then led to like a little bit of programming knowledge, and that eventually was like at a certain point I was like, whoa, you can actually make some very simple games, starting with just like a button, clicking a button or a coin, and then a score going up. That's kind of the beginning. But this was very rudimentary, and so I did that for many years, doing like web design in Flash. So if you were Flash websites were like this thing that you could be kind of creative, and web design studios would pay like extra for Flash designers at that point. So it was a good place to be like a freelance Flash artist or programmer. And it also required kind of this interesting blend of design and programming that was a little more rare. So it was a fun place for a lot of creatives to do stuff. The big thing at the time was like you would make your Flash portfolio. Like there were all these websites where they would have Flash portfolio awards. They had one called like Flash of the Week, but every week they'd have like the best like Flash portfolio website, and they'd be very intricate with all these unique designs and custom illustration and just so thoughtful. But they weren't games; they were just graphic design. They're almost like complicated portfolios that would have like things unfold and like do all these wonderful animations. So a lot of the people from that community, most of them probably turned into graphic designers or more like programmers, but a few of those people got into video games, and that's when you saw the explosion of places like Congregate and Newgrounds, where a lot of people started making games. So I was really into that, and I was I'm from like Maryland, which is near Washington D.C., but in my school, I was one of the best Flash programmers in my school.
Very nice.
Yes, it was. I even had a club called Flash Friends, which was we made a user group because I was like obsessed with Flash. Like I would check out all the books in the school library. So like while I was there for 2 years, I had like the whole time I had like all the Flash books. There was only 5 of them, but they were just in my parents' house because I would read them all. And but we started a user group. And then we would do like Flash tutorials with people at school, and it was just a lot of fun. And actually, the user groups were a lot like the playcrafting group, because we would meet up like once a month to meet other people that did Flash programming, and like because when you do game development or you do any like very specific like art form, you kind of don't have any friends that do it. Like you don't know anyone. Like you're really into this thing, and like most likely your friends from college or like are not going to care at all.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
So I think like, and you get into it, so you're like, oh, I really care about this. So seeking out a community where other people just even understand what you're doing is really important, I think, for your artistic growth, just to have a friend that that understands.
And that's one of the great things about playcrafting Gumbo is you have a lot of those people around all the time.
Yeah. So these communities, yeah. But I got really into Flash, and then I moved up to New York City, and Flash was like, this was the days of like Farmville games, like Facebook games were getting really big. And there was a website called I'mInLikeWithYou.com or OMG Pop.
Yeah, I know both of those.
So they were like a New York City company, and they got some like venture capital to make I think originally they were pitching an online dating site that had games. And then the games were so popular, they had like a Tetris clone and like a Bomberman clone. But those games were so popular that the site became just about that. And the cool thing about OMG Pop was they were multiplayer Flash games. So the creators of the website, they were really obsessed with like Super Nintendo games. That was like the games that they liked the most. So like your Super Mario World, your Super Mario Kart, and then like Star Fox, like, but the specifically like Kirby's Dreams Course and stuff, like all these like
all these clones.
Yeah, all these deep cut like Super Nintendo games, and they tried to rebuild kind of the joy of like Super Nintendo, the vibe, but on a website that was a multiplayer. So all the games that you played them with like 4 to 6 other people. And I got to basically they were looking for Flash developers, and they had like an open call for people to build prototypes. And I was in between freelance gigs, so I spent like 2 weeks building like this. I spent like 80 hours making a prototype for Pac-Man, a multiplayer Pac-Man. And
Uh-huh.
it had like all the basic rules of Pac-Man, but it was just squares going in a maze. And I showed them the prototype, and they were like, "Oh my god! Like you did this insane like," because no one else had done that much work, and I wasn't getting paid or anything. So I was just like, "Okay, this is cool," and I'm not doing anything. So I built this huge prototype, and then I showed it to them, and they were kind of blown away. So they were like, "This is cool, and we need games on our platform." So they were like, "Do you want to complete the game?" And so they were like, "We'll pay you to build the whole game." So I was like, hell yeah, like I want to build the whole game. Because so for me, it was like that
It's
was
your
like
first paid gig?
yeah, it was like my first. It was almost like getting a book deal because like I pitched them the prototype, and then they were like, yeah, we'll give you a chunk of money to finish it, and I had a deadline. It was like six weeks I had to finish the thing, and it was awesome. They gave me a lot of freedom because I got to do the Pac-Man style game, and they hooked me up with a graphic designer, and then I would show them my work occasionally, but they were pretty cool with how it worked. So that was like my first real gaming gig, and then I did another game with them called Phat Penguin, which was a miniature golf game that you like drag penguins and they fly into a hole. It's like miniature golf, except everyone's a penguin, and then everyone also shoots at the same time. So no one takes turns. They're just all like trying to get into the hole as fast as possible. But we had lots of puzzle elements like bumpers, and the penguins will like bounce off things, and they're just like snowball machines shooting the penguins. This is all 2D, like a top-down design.
There's been a
But
lot of mobile style, or just not just mobile, but like all sorts of like weird golf games that are top down mixed with RPG elements and stuff over the years since then. So it's a popular genre.
totally, and I brought up Super Kirby's Dream Course
Yeah,
earlier,
which is also golfish.
and that was like the game. They were like, we want it to be golf, but we want these powers, and it's like a more fun, creative golf. So the brief was really nice, and they gave me a lot of freedom. Uh, and then afterwards, I was like, I was making a lot of music, like techno music, in this program called Fruity Loops, and I really wanted to be like a rock star or something, but so I was also making a lot of music, but then I was like, okay, this game's the biggest thing I have right now. So I tried to make a music video about the game. So I made the music, and then I made a whole music video, trying to capitalize on the game's success. But and the music video, I'll share it with you later. But it did fine, but it didn't launch my my music career.
We could put it at the end of the YouTube version of the podcast. I mean, if you want to, if you
It's
want to
great.
share.
It's a good one.
Sounds good.
But then yeah, so they I don't know, but then they didn't need any more games, and I got really depressed because I wanted to make more games with them. But then eventually they hired me back to do Mario Kart style courses, so I had to design like all these like the tracks for like an F-Zero style game and a Mario Kart game. So I had to like design everything. So I'm a programmer, but I can also do a lot of level design if I have to.
So you got a lot of art. You're sort of a generalist a little bit there. Then when it
Yeah.
comes to
You like
that's awesome.
if you were chained to a computer for a month, Blair, would you prefer to do level design or programming?
Programming.
Programming.
And I'm doing all the environment design for kids at Karendow. So I mean, I'm doing most of the game aside from music and most of the art now. But before recently, I was still doing most of the art. But you've done a lot of other games too. There's
Yes.
Wedding Run, there's Sidewalker, Mumahawk, Bunny Love, and Swing Star, and that's not an exhaustive list. So, well, let's talk about Wedding Run first because there's a bit of a nuptial story around that one, isn't there?
Yes. So my wife, who we've been together for 10 years, we've been married for 3.
Congratulations.
I think it's 3. It might be 5. I'm not sure. She's an illustrator, and she was really in the kind of art illustration community here, and it's a little like the playcrafting world where you have like this artist community. They're all bonded by like drawing and illustration, and they get together and draw, and they even put out a book called like Drawing Once a Day, like drawing by I think 1482 is the name of the publisher, but the book was all about like you got to go out and draw like once a day. So it's like one of these kind of like self-help, motivate yourself to like stay focused on drawing. But when we started getting together, we really wanted to do some collaboration because I do like to spend a lot of time working on my projects, and if I'm gonna go on dates and stuff, I also want to like, how do I merge? How do I get this like relationship thing to also be like part of what I'm working on?
I tried that with Gerald. It hasn't worked so well yet.
It's tough. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. I'm not sure if it's always right. But
You're not the only people in the community who've done stuff together. So, like in terms of husband and wife duo.
what's a good one? Any off the top of your head?
Oh, like Brian and GJ.
Oh, Brian and GJ. Yeah, totally. Yeah. But they're a great couple, and they really strengthen each other.
And David Marquardt and his wife work together as well too.
No way.
So,
Okay.
Yeah, they do.
Crazy. Yeah. The tongue. Where's my tongue?
Yeah, pull my tongue.
Pull my
and
tongue.
Dean Razavi and his partner Matt, or his husband Matt, I wouldn't call them exactly game development partners, but when he was developing Vidar, he was using RPG Maker, which didn't natively support Mac. So he had Matt write a lot of Mac libraries to sort of, that he didn't really know what the code needed to do, so he just had Matt make it up, kind of, and that's why the Mac build of Vidar is very unstable, because they were guessing what those functions needed to return.
That's a tough one, yeah. Getting the Game Maker Mac support, challenging. Yeah, I think, it's good if you can find. I mean, maybe it's not like your significant other love interest. It might just be a really good friend. But it is great if you can find someone you can really work with. Sometimes it's even another company, like even just working for somebody else is in a way a collaboration. So
I guess it depends on the company and the work, though. If you don't like it, then
Sure, totally, yeah. But with the game, like I was talking about the contract work I got to do with OMG Pop, which is I was very lucky to get that gig, but that for me, that was kind of the collaboration I needed at that point. I don't think I was ready to do it on my own. It does take a lot of like I guess I want to use the word discipline to really just to like come back to the work every day.
I mean, it does take a lot of discipline. I mean, if that's a bad word, it is what it is, but you got to have that if you want to actually get anything done.
Yeah, I wonder why. So I'm trying to think, why do we even make games? I don't know if that's is that a question we want to ask, or like?
Well, yeah, why not? Why do we even make games? I mean, we've asked a version of that question to everyone on the podcast, I think. Why are we even doing this?
You want to go first on that one, Blair?
Sure. Yeah. So I've asked the question before. It's my artistic escape. It gives me an outlet to be creative in, especially when I've got a day job that's I think it's fair to say it's pretty dry. Mm-hmm. It's less technical now than it's ever been before. I'm more doing strategy stuff, which is it's fine. It's just not creative at all, or at least not creative in the way it's not creative in a way that I need to have creativity in my life. And yeah, it's I just love doing it, and I've been doing it since I was 8 years old, and I think I will do it for as long as I possibly can until I die. How about you?
What part you said like what like nugget of the creativity is like the most important part? Like
storytelling, a way for me to tell stories through whichever medium necessary. Like, you remember Burgle's Bounty? I had those little cutscenes in them, which all
cutscenes,
yeah, that was fun for me. And it's a way that I can express my sense of humor too, because I have a very dry sense of humor. Mm-hmm. And if I'm telling a joke to a person face to face, they will often think I'm serious. But when I animate it in a video game, I'm able to convey that part of my personality in a way that people actually laugh.
So self-expression, like someone really kind of knowing who you are at a deep level in a way.
Yeah, actually, yeah. Never thought of it that way.
Yeah. The unique Blair.
The unique Blair, yeah. So what about the unique Andrew?
The unique Andrew. So for me, I do like self-expression is so awesome. I like the idea of like the blank canvas. It's like, what are you gonna make with it? And that's the funnest thing about like meeting all these indie game developers it's like they're all trying to do the same thing, which is like we're all trying to make a game, which is a kind of a technical marvel. It's got all these pieces, and then we want other people to play it. So we do want some sort of like success in terms of views. We want people to view our idea.
Yeah.
And then there is like, we do want financial stuff, but I think more we want people to see it and to be known. But then the cool thing is like, so that's our goal, but then the way we attack the goal is like completely different. Because like somebody might be doing a puzzle game, someone might be doing like a driving game, or like something more artistic that's very like, almost like a dancing kind of thing. And then, you can be so creative in your problem solving, and it really tells a lot about like that person, like what genre did they choose, like what's their graphic style, like how do they collaborate with other people, like what do you decide to do on your game versus like what do you collaborate on, like are you okay with somebody else doing the music, or are you okay with somebody else doing some coding? I think that like what you decide to prioritize on. So for me, I really like exploring lots of different genres. So I think it's fun to like try different, I think it's great you're doing an RPG game because like you've done puzzle. So now it's like, I like the idea of trying something new. I feel like is really healthy for growing. And
Oh, this is Kids of Karendow is after I finished Burgle's Bounty, I had a conversation with Gary and I said, if there's a game, if we make one more game for the rest of our lives, we know what that game is going to be. So let's just go ahead and do it, and just like do it. And then that way we know we can die happy if we die tomorrow or whatever.
I think it's true. Like if you're gonna die, like if you're straight up gonna die tomorrow, like at least you finish this painting. You're like, hey, I did my painting, so at least I painted it, and you want it to last a little while. So I think there is like, you do want the thing to last, or you want people to play it and stuff. So right now, my goal is trying to make games that are like a lot of people play them and that they are memorable. But they also have kind of a nugget of what I might deem as creative, which might be like with the game we're doing now, Singularity. It's really like a science documentary. I'm really into like science, like YouTube documentaries, and
I was definitely wanting to get into that. So let's just go into that now. So, I mean, Singularity is it fair to say it is your most successful game?
Yeah, by a long shot.
By a long shot.
Yeah.
I remember I played it when you were still prototyping it. It's still very early in development, but I did play it again in preparation for this podcast.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
And number one, I'll say I can see why. Well, first of all, it's very addictive, so I can see why it's so popular. I didn't get super far. I was still in the primordial ooze, but I know there's tons more content in there. I know you're working on a big space expansion. So let's get into that, because I can see why it's so popular. But how did it get so popular? Because indies tend to suck at marketing.
This game is really popular. So like as Blair mentioned, so this is it's primarily really big on the Android store. I think so. We passed 10 million downloads, and
wow.
We on Steam, I think we have maybe like it's a free game also, folks. So it's a free game, and on Steam, I think we have 500,000 downloads and a pretty good rating. Our rating is at least blue. I think it's like 85.
Well, that's pretty good.
Yeah, not too bad. But so the game is about this is a clicker game. So think cookie clickers, except it's all about it follows the evolution of life on Earth. So you start off as like a simple cell, and you're clicking and you're unlocking evolutionary traits. And then you're evolving from a cell to like a jellyfish.
Well, in the very beginning, it's like you're setting up proteins. Even it seemed like
it's almost like science textbook. Like it's kind of dry, but it's also kind of interesting.
It's educational.
It's got like all the details. So for when I came up with the concept, so I was pretty depressed for like a year, and like all I was like I was doing like a freelance gigs here and there, but I was doing like I was just laying in bed, like all all I wanted to do was like lay in bed like all day long. And then what do you do when you're in bed? Just watching like YouTube videos. And like, even though I'm depressed, I'm having a good time watching YouTube videos. Yeah, I'm just watching all this stuff on like, like what's the meaning of life, and like where's life come from. And I really love like documentary content from like there's a lot of great 70s documentaries. Like BBC put out things like The Ascent of Man or Civilization. There's one called Connections, which was a big influence. This is James Burke's Connections, which is all about connecting technologies, like how like electricity is connected to the telephone, and the telephone connects to like radar, and like talking about how ideas actually turn into more ideas, instead of looking at history in like a linear timeline. It's
Right.
more like actually like ideas are kind of
But they're iterative.
Yeah, they're very iterative, and like one is kind of necessary for the other one. So I was watching a lot of those. Cosmos is another one, and then I was also playing like clicker games. Like for some reason, I got into that genre. Like a lot of people have probably played Cookie Clickers, which is the kind of the seminal clicker game. And then there was another one on Congregate at the time called Adventure Capitalist. And Adventure Capitalist had it introduced some new mechanics. They had like these progress bars that were filling up, and it was just, I don't know, I just got really into it, and it just helped. I mean, like I said, I was a little depressed, so it just, by just playing that, I just liked playing it, and I really understood the addictive qualities of it. It was fun. I feel like for you to make a game, you really have to get inside of it and enjoy it. And you're not always lucky enough to love a genre, but this genre I really did enjoy quite a bit.
That's awesome. So
Yeah.
is it all right if I ask you a little bit
Yes.
about like what got you into that funk? Because I mean,
Sure,
that's a
yeah.
challenge of part of making games.
I think
If you don't talk about it, we don't have to.
I think I was just generally like, I mean, I had a freelance gig that kind of went sour, and then it was like a really tough project that I kind of felt like a failure at the end of it. Like I guess feeling incompetent is kind of something that I deal with sometime. And this project, it didn't go very well, and I think I got kind of like bruised. Sometimes you're in an emotional situation where you kind of feel like you don't notice it during the time, but afterwards you're like, wow, I got really kind of beat up, and I didn't want to freelance anymore. So I kind of was like avoiding kind of jumping back into that, like the New York freelance world, but I also had like a teaching gig that allowed me to kind of keep me afloat. So I was kind of scraping by for the most part. But it just I did a few so I did some other creative projects with the free time that I had. So I made some games in that time.
So was that Mama Hawk and Swing Star?
That was Sidewalker. So Sidewalker was a mobile game, and we made a 3D engine for that one. So I really wanted to. I'd always done 2D graphics with Flash, and I knew a lot about 2D and how that worked. And 3D was this like mysterious, like, it's like, how does 3D work? It's like, how do polygons work? And I didn't want to do Unity. I wanted to learn, like, I wanted to make my own 3D graphics. So I spent like a year. Maybe that's also why I was so depressed, because learning 3D graphics is very hard.
Yeah. Like, I still don't know how to do anything in 3D, and I don't have an interest in it, to be honest.
Yeah, it just took forever just to get a stupid polygon, like a triangle, to show up on the screen. Took forever, and but it was very rewarding.
I did code on OpenGL. I mean, but only 2D games, like using 3D.
Yeah, so this was OpenGL with I don't know, like, I guess C++ like engine or something, but it was just fun. It was like, okay, I really want to do 3D engine, so that was what.
Sweet.
Yeah, but I would not recommend other people making that. It's not really a good idea.
Not fast.
Yeah,
not fast at all.
It is a good exercise, but I don't know if it's always right for someone's like creative journey.
It's good to know, sort of, I think, from a technical standpoint, how some of this stuff works, because it also sort of helps you when you want to like do crazy graphical effects, especially because it tends to become a little more math heavy.
Yeah.
So that stuff is, I mean, it's harder, definitely, but it's definitely useful.
Yeah, I thought it was cool. Like I wanted to know, like I wanted to understand how it worked because it was just a mystery to me. So it did take about a year and a half to like make a very simple engine, and we made 2 games in it, and then eventually I switched to Unity because I was teaching a class and they wanted Unity, so I learned how to do that. And
Unity definitely makes a lot of stuff way easier.
yeah, at first I was really I didn't want to use it because I had my own engine, and I was like, no, I already have my engine. But once I started using it, and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool, and like I don't have to do all this extra work.
Yeah,
I can just I can focus more on being creative on the game side instead of creative on like a hardcore engineering side, which is like
takes a lot of energy and a lot of time.
Yeah, and like it doesn't matter. Like the player might not care. So.
Well, yeah, the player doesn't care at all. I don't care the tools built in, but I've noticed
artisanal games. They're their own game engine.
But you can notice like it's not always. It depends, I think, on the budget of the game. But you can generally tell when a game was made in Unity or when a game was made in RPG Maker. If they haven't spent a lot of time and use a lot of sort of out of the box features of those engines, it shows.
You know what Mario Odyssey was made in?
I don't. I actually haven't played Mario Odyssey.
Unreal.
I maybe I did know that. Maybe I did hear that somewhere. But
yeah, Nintendo finally. I think Breath of the Wild is.
Breath of the Wild was a custom engine.
That's custom. Yeah, I think that one's custom. But the Mario, for Odyssey, they did switch over. So
I haven't played a Mario game in a long time.
Yeah, I played a little bit of Odyssey, but it's interesting to see Nintendo experimenting with the off-the-shelf engines because they originally pioneered the 3D.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Phat Games Podcast. If you enjoyed what you heard, please consider liking this and subscribing to our channel. Now please enjoy Andrew's music video of Phat Phat Penguin. I can't believe he did this.
Phat Phat Penguin. Chilling on the ice with my fellow penguins. Phat Phat Penguin is my vice. Miniature golf on the ice. The aim of the game is to get below par. Phat Phat Penguin. We go hard. I'm playing Phat Phat Penguin. 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 Phat Phat. Penguins are cool. Don't let them fall in the pool. Iceberg right ahead. Players try to bump me, but I'm too fast. I wait for my turn, cause I've got class. Ice cubes, bumpers, cones. Welcome to this Arctic zone. Meet me on the ice if you're feeling nice.